Hello and welcome to the Hormone Genius podcast. I am here with my favorite person to talk about all things hormones, Jamie Rachi. And hey, Jamie, I'm here today in a college dorm room. I'm up in Benedictine College doing some speaking. And so I'm in a dorm room today, which is kind of fun. And we are going to be doing an awesome podcast where I get to ask Jamie the questions. Oftentimes, this role is switched and Jamie's asking me questions about maybe medical things. So this is going to be fun because I get to switch the role and ask questions to Jamie about what she's passionate about and to help me understand kind of her world a little bit better. So we're going to be talking about a couple of different things. We're going to be talking about essential oils and how we can partner with that natural kind of tool, you could say, to help our bodies and our hormones. And we're going to also talk a little bit about nutrients too, and maybe what nutrients are most important for our hormones. So many times people want some ideas about how they can naturally make their hormones balanced. And Jamie's very passionate about this. And I'm excited to talk to her about what she knows in the research and what she uses in her daily life to help her and her body.
Yeah, thanks, Teresa. And I always get that question anytime I bring up essential oils and hormones, because right before we went on air, Teresa and I were talking about how essential oils can be kind of a triggering word for people. It can be a triggering word. And so just know Teresa and I are coming at this from a place of education, just additional information to consider when it comes to your health and hormones. And I'm excited, like Teresa said, because my own personal hormone story includes oils. It's why I'm so passionate about it. I think if that weren't the case, I might be just as critical, honestly. And so, is it a fad? Is it just like a thing that's cool for now and it will leave? Or is it here to stay? I have a feeling it's here to stay because the world is seeing more of the, just the issues with over-the-counter medication, over-medicating, all of that. So if you are skeptical and critical of oils, no worries. Like, that's totally fine. But if you are open to learning more, I have some books and resources that are unbiased. They're doctors and researchers that I would love to recommend you all, because that's where I learned a lot of what I know just from these professionals. So again, we can get there at the end. Yeah. But one thing I want to say, Teresa, just real quick before we get started, is that what I hope to bridge the gap on today is that essential oils, they don't make hormones. So, people are like, how do oils and hormones? Like, I have low progesterone. What oil do I use? I'm like, no, okay, I can give you some recommendations of how to support your luteal phase, but essential oils don't make your hormones. They don't create them. They don't replace your hormones. They don't produce them. They support your body, and your body is what produces the hormones. So I just want to get that out there before we went on too much further, that a lot of what we're going to talk today about is the support of the body with the use of oils.
Yeah, like that's amazing, Jamie. And I'll have to admit, like, I don't know very much about this, and in meeting you and learning about what you do, I have I'm like, I feel a little uncomfortable sometimes. I'm like, oils, I'm not sure. I don't know how they work. So I love that you said that, because truly, like, in the body, like, it's all about supporting our cells and our ability to use our natural kind of produced hormones and have them work correctly in the body. So anything that we do, and that could be like getting enough sleep. It could be, again, what we put in our body from a nutritional standpoint. So this is another tool that's helping our cells use these hormones that our body makes correctly and to make them more balanced. I love that. Now, Jamie, I think your story that you told me, it was a while ago, about what happened to you and how you corrected this thing that was happening to you with essential oils is amazing. So can you share that with our listeners? Because I think that's very profound.
Yeah, of course. So my daughter, who is 9 now, she was just at a year when my husband and I had a miscarriage. And earlier on in our, season, I think the first season, Teresa, we talked about my miscarriage story. Anyway, so I had a miscarriage, and a couple months after, I had more anxiety than I've ever had in my life. Like, I couldn't sleep. Typically when people have problems sleeping, they might have just struggled with sleep since they were little, not me. Like it was totally all of a sudden, there was a definite change. One day I could sleep, one day I couldn't. And come to find out later, it was due to my very low progesterone levels. After I had that miscarriage, my progesterone levels didn't boot back up. And likely the cause of that miscarriage likely was due to low progesterone. And I was learning the charting, like I wasn't even a full-fledged teacher yet or fertility care practitioner. So I was like right in the midst of this. And I didn't even have like a close by NAPRO person to even talk to, NAPRO technology, which is what Teresa's trained in. So I felt all alone. And again, I didn't even realize it was due to hormones. I thought it was just this isolated event of not being able to sleep. And I cannot even express to you how terrifying it was, Teresa. And if any of our listeners are listening now and you struggle with sleep, I am so sorry, but there is hope. And I understand the feeling of hopelessness because in the feeling of fear. But just know there is hope and it's going to be okay. I needed to hear that all the time because I thought this is my life now. So I remember the day, it was February 12th, stopped sleeping. And, at first I didn't think much of it. Maybe I'm kind of a hyper person. I had given a talk at one of my very first conferences and I was so pumped and excited. And just in terms of me personally, like the Lord is part of my, life. And so I just remember thinking, oh, the Lord, like he wants me to depend on him fully. The day before I give the biggest talk I've ever given, I didn't sleep for 1 hour the day before the talk. I'm like, oh, he's just checking, like to see if I'm gonna depend on me or on him. The next day, I give the talk. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sleep like a baby. Next day, didn't fall asleep again. I think I slept for 2 hours. Like, there's something wrong. So going through week by week, month by month, and I headed to the doctor so many times, tried acupuncture, chiropractic, changed my diet, started running more than I already was, which is probably too much in the first place. And I couldn't fall asleep naturally on my own at all. And I was feeling scared and frightened. And I remember I was meeting with a Creighton client and she had come after a few times of me having to reschedule on her because I was always sick. And ladies, if any of you work and you're constantly getting sick because you're not sleeping, because your immune system is garbage, makes sense. And again, I hear you. That's what's happening to me. I was not my best version. And she's like, wow, like, are you okay? And I was losing weight and I'm already a small person. I'm like, my immune system, I'm constantly getting sick. I didn't tell her about my problem sleeping. And she's like, let me teach you about oils. And let me tell you, like, Teresa, I am not into the classes of let me teach you this thing. I'm not, but I knew that I'd heard enough people talk about oils in their immune system. And that was all I was interested in learning about. So I go to the class and she talks about oils in the immune system. And that's the only thing I was going to get. And then she says, and oils can help with sleep. And I'm like, ha, 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 ha. Nice. Like, no, maybe they can sleep with help the normal person. They are not going to help me. Like I've tried literally everything, literally like Ambien, Trazodone, clonazepam, all of it. And nothing helped me. It was very scary.
That's scary.
Teresa, I mean, have you ever had women just come back to your office like over and over and be like, I cannot sleep. Help me, help me, help me.
Honestly, what the type of insomnia you're talking about is pretty rare. I think what's more common is that, people wake up after sleeping a few hours and they can't get back to sleep and our woman brain just kind of stews, right? And all that kind of stuff. But you're talking about straight up, like you were laying there all night. And at that point, like you said, your brain's going crazy and you're losing it. You're losing it on a physical level. You're losing it on an emotional level. And it is a trap. And I've seen it. It is more common postpartum, but not very common. So I don't see it as often. I mean, we deal with sleep issues, but not like that, Jamie. That's, like you said, very, very, very frightening.
I remember laying in bed and just praying to God that I could fall asleep before my husband's alarm went off for the next day at school because he's a teacher. And the number of days where I would just lay to bed and lay there and just pray and wait and sometimes cry. And then I'd hear his alarm. It was terrible.
Oh my gosh.
It was terrible. Anywho, so I go to this class and she's like, sleep. I'm like, whatever. But I bought like a bundle of oils. I go home that night and I do my own research because, again, personally, I need data for me, especially with something so important. So I go online and I find the study, and I feel like the Lord led me there. And they literally, it was, there were two groups of people. And I don't know how big the study was. If I can find it, I'll post it in the show notes. But anyway, there was generalized anxiety and insomnia, the women. Okay. These two groups. One group was taking trazodone, and then the other group they were ingesting lavandula, which is a compound of lavender. Okay. Lavandula. And so what happens if you hear that lavandula, like there's different compounds, like I said, in different plants and yada, yada, that have different effects in the body. And actually what's interesting is 35,000 medicines in today's age are from compounds of plants. So I think I even wrote that down somewhere. Like it's like up to 60%. And you probably know that, Teresa. So anywho, I'm like, here we go. So that's what I did. I started ingesting lavender. Now, I'm not saying everyone should be ingesting their oils. That is not what I'm trying to say. This is my story though.
Right.
So first day, I ingest the oil. I don't take the trazodone at night. I don't do anything at night. I just pray to God, please help me. And it's July at this point. So it was February to July, and ingested it. Teresa, I fell asleep. And it was crazy. I woke up the next day. It was 6 a.m. and I thought it was 10 or 11 or 12. Like, as in, I felt so good. I thought I slept in. The very fact that I slept. And I remember I was staying at my mom and dad's at the time. We were visiting. And I'm like, there is no flipping way that it was these stupid oils. Like, I had tried oils before. Those did not work, from Bath and Body Works and yada, yada, blah, blah. Didn't work. So I was like, Mom, Dad, what did you have the temperature at? Like, what's the brand of your sheets? Like, what's this mattress? Like, there's no way, like, no way. And so I thought the true test will be tomorrow when I do it again. And so I did it again. I ingested it and I fell asleep. And literally, I just kept doing that every single day. And I took the protocol that the doctor gave me at the time, because I was taking medication and it still was not working well, but I was taking Zoloft during the day because I was always so anxious at night. Like, I would have panic attacks at 5 anytime it started getting dark. When I'd walk past my bedroom, we had to rearrange the furniture in my room. I had to sleep in different spaces. It was terrible. And so I was just like, couldn't believe that this was actually happening. And so started ingesting the oils, like I said, every day. Started realizing too that my progesterone levels at that point, it was all catching up with me, that, oh, my levels are terrible. So then I started learning more about oils and supplements, which we'll talk more about in this episode. I started taking supplements that were good. And so I didn't honestly know there was a difference between the supplements at the store, the oils at the store, and the good stuff. And honestly, that's what helped me with my balancing of progesterone. That's what helped me with my sleep. And so that's why I'm passionate. So that's how it helped with hormones. It's a perfect example. Did the lavender produce progesterone for me? No, but it reduced my cortisol, which was my stress hormone, so that my progesterone could be produced. And so I'm all passionate about this because, again, oils and supplements can help restore our cells, restore our body, because our hormone symphony can get thrown off by one thing and then hijack the rest of the symphony, the noise. Right. And so that's what was happening with me.
Jamie, that is a crazy story. And I can totally understand how someone like in that situation would then be like, there's something behind this, and want to learn more and want to help other people with it. So, okay, you've got a great example of one particular condition caused by cortisol and probably low progesterone, like you said. Let's talk about let's give another example or two examples of situations where women might have a particular symptom or a particular hormone imbalance, and you have seen where using oils could help them.
Yeah. I would say, again, just as a reminder for those listening, that the oils aren't going to cure, prevent, or heal you. It's gonna help restore the body so the body can cure, prevent, and heal itself, which is what it was meant to do. But other examples could be like this is actually quite amazing. So women who have like postpartum depression, anxiety, or any sort of trauma, like from childbirth, but literally anything, they did a study. And again, I can link these studies on the essential oil called bergamot, or some people call it bergamot. And this one oil, more than any other oil for like calming or grounding or nerves, helped men from war recover from PTSD. Mm-hmm. And so then carrying that same sort of idea, bergamot or bergamot, into women who struggle with any sort of trauma. And what happens is bergamot, it helps increase GABA in the brain. And there's all these beautiful things about specific citrus oils. Bergamot is one example that has been studied, I'd say, the most, and has showed the most effectiveness and power. But like even wild orange or lemon or grapefruit, those are all oils to help like uplift you, but also in a sense balance you. And so in terms of the neurotransmitters and the stress response, those are really good ones. But the reason I brought up the citrus is because you wanted a second example. So citrus oils are really good for cleansing. So cleansing like the liver. So women who have like maybe estrogen dominance, which really should be called xenoestrogen dominance. They might have a lot of toxins in their home, or they're putting on, tons of hairspray and makeup that isn't necessarily clean. That can really affect our hormones. It can hijack our hormones, just our lifestyle alone. And so our liver has a lot of work to do when that happens. And the more toxins, the more work our liver is doing. And so I always recommend all women, because we're all surrounded by toxins every single day, but specifically women in their 40s, their mid 30s, 40s and beyond, to really be thinking about the health of their liver. So wild orange, lemon, like I said, citrus oils are great for cleansing the liver. So there was this one woman I was working with. It was so weird. And at the time, I wish I asked more questions, to be honest. But like jaundice babies, how the whites of their eyes are yellow because their liver isn't functioning, appropriately or whatever. Yeah. This woman had the whites of her eyes were yellow, just tinted yellow, just a touch. She started with oils. And the first thing that we recommend people to do, simple, is just put a drop of lemon in her water, glass container. Okay. She's not chugging it, just putting a drop, in her water. And after about a month of just doing that every day, the whites of her eyes turned back to white. I'm like, what? So actually it can cleanse the liver.
So a question about that, Jamie.
Yeah, sure.
So someone might say, because I think we've all kind of heard, put lemons in your water because it's so good for, detoxing the body. Is there a difference between doing just lemons in your water and the lemon essential oil put in your water? And explain that to us.
Yeah. So the lemon essential oil actually come from the peel of the lemon, from the rind of the fruit, not from the citrus oil itself. So that's another good thing to think about too, as you're listening, like herbs, like herbal medicines and that kind of thing are amazing. And I love herbal medicines and support systems through that. But herbs are different than essential oils, because essential oils are one part of the plant, as in like they're the oil sac, for instance, on like a leaf of a plant. Or for the lemon oil, it's from the rind that's cold pressed from the rind of the fruit and not from the fruit itself. So the fruit itself, with lemon, for instance, is acidic, like the fruit, but the rind of the peel is alkaline. So sometimes people get nervous, like, oh, I don't want to put too much lemon in my water because it's acidic and I've struggled with ulcers, yada, yada. But actually the rind is alkaline, which is an interesting fun fact. So that would be the difference, but they're both great and they both serve a purpose.
Got it. Okay. So this is awesome. I love herbs too. And I have someday we'll do a whole show on herbals. I have actually someone we could even interview locally that has been teaching me about herbs. That would be super awesome. But I want to talk about then, so I know in research, there's also this idea, because you talk about like when I think of oils, I think of the scent, you know what I mean? I think of the smell. And honestly, this is funny. So I have some patients that I call my essential oil patients. And when I walk into the room, I'm always like, oh, you like essential oils. And I'm always like, You smell so good. So I always know who's using it because they just smell so good too. So, but there's this idea in research that the olfactory system is very important, right? And actually has a lot to do with hormones and the way our brain chemicals work too. So, because you're talking about two different ways, in some way to use them, your ingest, but you could also use them from an olfactory standpoint. So give us a sense of the difference in that.
Yeah. Yes. So there's 3 ways to use essential oils. Again, if someone's in the market of essential oils, they get to choose how to use the oil. So I'm not here saying use them in these 3 ways, just like you get to choose. But there are ways to use internally, which you should use caution based on the oil company and where you're getting the oils and yada, yada, because you don't want to ingest something harmful. The second way is you can apply oils topically. So then when you apply oils topically, it enters into your bloodstream. So essential oils travel through the blood, just so like actually hormones do that too. So hormones are chemical messengers that travel through the blood. Essential oils also travel through the blood and address our cells at the cellular level. And then the third way is aromatically. So what I love about this is it's aromatically, it's addressing our nervous system. So addressing our brain, so there's the mode of transport topically, which is through our blood. But then when we inhale an aroma through our nose, the olfactory nerves in our nose pick up that aroma and communicate to the olfactory bulb in our limbic system. And so when we're inhaling any smell, like let's say I'm walking into my kitchen and my husband made homemade bread, which he's never done in his life, but let's just say he did.
Whoops.
Oh, cue, honey, please make me some homemade bread. But say I smell that. And I think, oh my gosh, that reminds me of my grandma when I was 10. Like she'd always make homemade bread and it smelled like that. So when I walk into the room, I didn't have to sit and think, what does that smell remind me of? I don't remember. Like, what is it? No, I didn't have to labor. I didn't have to think about it. It instantly came to me. So the moment I smelled that aroma, it triggered a memory, a response in my brain, in my limbic system. And it brought me back to that memory. How powerful and how cool is that? The power of aroma. But like I said, the limbic system, maybe I said it, I can't remember, is your mood and your memory. So your mood is connected, like it's in that same general area as the memory. So if I'm going to inhale an essential oil, for instance, not only does that aroma can affect my mood, which is interesting, right? Like we've smelled clove at Christmas time, or we've smelled certain smells and it makes us feel a certain way, or like a poopy diaper makes me want to like run across the street and, do something else a mile away. You know what I'm saying? So like smells, we do have a response to smells, but because essential oils, the molecules of oils are so volatile, they literally travel through the air. It's why you can smell an orange, somebody cutting an orange, like if you're standing a few feet away, because the essential oil, the molecules are traveling through the air. Or like you go out and go on a walk out in the forest. They call it forest bathing. It's like very calming. It's calming because of the molecules floating in the air, the plants that affects you. So same thing when you deeply inhale a good, pure, clean oil from a bottle of essential oil, it affects your mood. And so it's an immediate response. So if somebody is having a really anxious moment, or they need to calm down, or they are so tired, they legit open the bottle or put a drop or two of oil in their hands, cup it over their nose. I say inhale 20 seconds, like deeply, slowly, don't hyperventilate, but don't just smell it once and move on. Like really give yourself a moment to inhale. And there's 2 main compounds that I love. One's called limonene and one's called linalool. Limonene is found in citrus oils, and that has the uplifting effect. So if you're feeling low, kind of like I was talking about the bergamot thing earlier, you deeply inhale it and it affects your mood and it uplifts you because of the limonene. And then the linalool is for calming. So lavender has linalool in it. And they're one of my favorite oils is called magnolia, and that has 3 times the amount of linalool as lavender. So when I'm really freaking out, I have actually a blend of oils with citrus and magnolia, with limonene and linalool. For instance, I combine them together, and I love using that blend because I know it will help me stay grounded, but it'll also uplift me. So it affects the brain and it affects the mood immediately. And if it doesn't for you, it just means that might not be your oil.
Wow. That is amazing, Jamie. You were so smart about that. And that's amazing. So, and I know, like you said, you've like looked up, there's PubMed research studies on all this stuff. So that there's credible science that really, this is legit kind of like how our body works. And it makes sense, like you said, from the standpoint of the way our brains and body connect to each other and with our olfactory system to sense danger, to sense pheromones and to be attracted to our mates. Like there's just so many connections there. So why wouldn't we use those oils that are God-given in nature to help our mood and so many things. So you mentioned pure, clean oils, Jamie, and I know you're passionate about the fact that you can't just get oils at Walmart. You really do have to get a quality. So just give us a rundown of what that means, like what's safe, what's quality when it comes to oils. And really, I kind of feel like this is somewhat similar to working with a doctor. Like you kind of want to work with an expert, I feel like in this, like for the most part. I mean, if you really want to get into it, it may be helpful to find someone who really knows what they're doing. Yeah. And obviously you're one of those people.
Totally. So just like you can buy junky supplements, you can also buy junky essential oils. And it makes sense because the FDA does not regulate things that come from nature because they can't. So they can't regulate vitamins. They can't regulate essential oils. And sometimes that alone keeps people nervous to even use them because they're like, oh, the FDA doesn't approve essential oils, or on the bottle, it might say, talk with your doctor, which you can. Obviously, you can always talk to your doctor about using your oils. But there is difference. I always use the example of Fruit Loops versus an apple. You can buy a chemical smell of lavender, or you can actually buy essential oil from a lavender plant. And the experience is going to be completely different. The first experience will be not calming for you. And 2, you might get a headache. So if you've used oils in the past and you're like, they're bogus, like I used to think, because it was bogus, because I had literally no idea there was a difference. That's why I laughed when they're like, you can use oils for sleep. I'm like, ha, ha, ha. No, I had no idea there's a difference. Anyway, these are things you want to keep in mind when you're shopping around to make sure that you're getting a good quality oil. And again, I'm sure there's several there's great companies and there's great places that sell them. And there's people that just want to make a quick buck because there's no regulation over what they're selling. So they can fill that oil with fillers, pesticides, doesn't matter how they harvest them, plant them, yada, yada. Okay. So here we go. First thing is ask the company for their reports, for their quality reports. The reason why I would say that is because, like, if we think about the importance of eating food without pesticides or Roundup spray, yada, yada, it's bad for our bodies. But if we think about oils, so like just as an FYI, it takes pounds and pounds. I think it takes 150 pounds of rose petals to create a 5 milliliter bottle, which is only 80 drops.
What?
Crazy. And then you think about how much a dozen roses costs, and then you multiply that, and then you think about the work and the labor involved, and people are like, oils are expensive. Well, yes, certain ones are because of the cost of actually what it costs to buy a dozen roses. Like that's another thing too. So ask company for quality reports, but 2, if you're going somewhere and all the oils cost the same price, they're probably not real because like a lemon is way cheaper. Like a lemon oil could be $10 and a rose oil could be $100. And that is probably a realistic difference in terms of the labor and the cost of a lemon versus a rose. You know what I mean?
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then ask people that you trust and know about their own experience. So like if you don't know somebody, and because I think the reason people get triggered in this world with oils or anything is because they don't know if they're being sold something. Like, are you selling me for a quick dollar, or do you legitimately care? Yeah. So if you're wondering, okay, are these essential oils legit, yada, yada, find someone that you know and that you trust and ask them. Like if this could be incorporated into your health routine, and you need someone to like tell you about it, find someone, because there's plenty of people using oils. Third, look to see if it's safe for internal use. So on the back of your essential oil bottle, if it's not safe, for instance, I always tell people go find a lemon in whatever company. And if it says do not ingest, then there's probably fillers, there's probably pesticides, because you should definitely be able to use that lemon for your olive oil, herbal salad dressing. Like I just made a salad dressing yesterday and I put lemon oil in it, and I just use a couple drops because essential oils are 50 to 70 times more potent than herbs. You need very little of it and it goes a very long way. So safe for internal use. And also some people get nervous about that, which I get. But when you think about your peppermint chewing gum, what did they use to flavor the peppermint chewing gum? They use peppermint. So it's okay to ingest oils. You're ingesting them actually every day. You don't even realize it. But the stuff that says don't ingest, that's the stuff that you got to be nervous about. And if you can't ingest it, I definitely wouldn't put it on my skin because that gets absorbed into your bloodstream. And then the fourth, so I have 5 different tips. Okay. The fourth is try a few. So ask a friend or ask whoever to just try a couple. If you get headaches, see if a peppermint could help you with your headache. You have hormone headaches, or you have acne, see if tea tree. These are all actual solid examples of things you can try, ladies and gentlemen. Peppermint is great for headaches. A drop or two, rub it on your temple, on the back of your neck. It's also great for cooling for women who struggle with hot flashes during the menopause time. Right. Tea tree oil is great for acne, dries up pus, and it's great for infection. And so try a couple, just try them for yourself and see if you like it. And then the 5th is where the oils are sourced and where they are grown. So is it native or non-native, like in terms of the plants in a location? So in Iowa, I could plant a lemon tree and the lemon would totally suck. But in Florida, the lemon would be way better. Not only will it look good and way better, but it'll be more nutritious for me because it was grown in the right kind of soil, in the right kind of climate. And so that's a big difference too with essential oil companies, especially too with the price. If it's less expensive, it might be just easier to farm and to produce. But there are some companies that actually seek out the native land of these oils so that the peppermint experience or the lavender or the frankincense experience is far more effective than the frankincense that was grown in Oregon or something. I don't know if frankincense is grown in Oregon, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that makes a difference. So there are oils, of course, that are safe, that don't have fillers, that just won't be as effective because they're not grown in their native land, if that makes sense. So those are the 5 tips I would suggest all listeners to just do your own research and find what you find and, do your best to be comfortable with whatever you choose.
So frankincense. So what is frankincense good for? Because I think that's one like I've heard before. And I just think of Christmas because it's, what they brought to Jesus was the frankincense and myrrh. So what is it used for in the essential oil world?
I love frankincense. So frankincense, it's actually from the resin of a boswellia tree. I think I said that right. And so frankincense is great. I always say it's my desert island oil because you can use it for a lot of things. So you can use it for your mood. You can use it as an anti-inflammatory for the skin, for wrinkles. You can use it for your immune system. I know that there's a hospital here, about 90 minutes south that would use frankincense to diffuse for cancer patients going through chemo to help increase their immune system, as they just diffuse it in their space. So frankincense is an amazing oil, and it makes sense that it's pricey because it is. And that's another thing. If you can buy frankincense for less than $50, it's probably not really frankincense. But frankincense was given to the baby Jesus. So was myrrh. Those are both essential oils. Oils look different then than they do now. As in they didn't have the technology to distill this oil sacs into these little bottles. But I was reading this book. It's called Essential Oils of the Bible. And it's so cool. They're like, what did Mary use when she had to clean up after her labor? Probably the frankincense and myrrh. Not only was it meant for a king, as incense and to honor a king, the frankincense and myrrh and gold, of course, but also Mary might have likely used it for her and for the baby, and for Jesus.
I'm sure there were so many cool uses. I mean, I think that they anointed bodies with oils to basically preserve them. And I'm sure there's tons of information about how oils were used in the past. Before, again, you mentioned pharmaceutical companies. And I think you said 60%, or maybe you said 80%,
60%.
but are derived from some sort of a plant. But that's true. Like, again, even though we make these drugs, the reality is way far back, they came from a compound that was natural, most likely. Mm-hmm. They came from the earth, and then we manipulate that compound to create a medication out of it. Mm-hmm. So we just don't think about that, you know? Okay. So give me a couple more, just kind of like your best, you know, kind of like what like blows your mind in terms of like, we use this oil and like, it's so amazing because it works so often. Like, let's give a little more meat to the bones there.
Okay. I will share a couple stats or a couple, research studies for those of you who want to look it up, and look it up, please. You'll find it a million times over. And actually, fun fact, there's over 1,000 studies on peppermint alone if you go on PubMed.
That is awesome.
1,000. Okay, so in 2014, there was a study done from the Journal of Phytotherapy Research, found that the inhalation of clary sage reduced cortisol levels by 36%, and it improved the thyroid stimulating hormone.
Wow.
Which is awesome. So here's the thing too, is that when we do studies, we want like a large number of participants, but sometimes the funding isn't there and it just isn't the way it is. But on this particular study, there was only 22 women, but they were in their postmenopausal years. And so, or in their 50s, but there was a statistical significant change in their cortisol. And if you think about anyone who needs help with that, it's definitely women in their 50s. So I thought that was really good, the cortisol. And again, there's also studies on frankincense lowering cortisol, lavender lowering cortisol. So if any of you ladies have progesterone issues, and again, it's a symphony, there could be other reasons why your progesterone is off. Maybe the follicle didn't develop correctly or whatever. But if it has anything to do with stress, this is a very inexpensive, easy, and kind of even fun way to help reduce the cortisol. And again, ways to do that, I would say, is first just to start with inhalation. Diffuse it at your bedside, put a drop or two in your hands and inhale. I also like wearing diffuser jewelry because it's like on you and it's cute, or putting like a drop or two in your scarf in the winter, that's always fun too. Okay. Another oil is thyme. So, there is the study from the Proceedings of the Society of Experimental Biology and Medicine. Say that 5 times fast. It did discover that thyme had progesterone balancing effect. And again, I think it is just that idea of that cortisol. So that's my favorite one for that. I'd say my other favorites, there's a blend, like I told you, of magnolia and citrus. For me, it's an oil that I buy. It's called Adaptive. And I love Adaptive. For me, I'm kind of high strung and hyper. So I like to inhale that, and it helps to calm me down. And then also, ladies and gentlemen, whoever's listening, your home, again, what I want to leave people with as I was preparing for this is how to keep it just so simple. So like, what are the 2 main things people can walk away with and start implementing right away? Reducing the toxins in your home will help to improve your hormones. So reducing that by ingesting a lemon oil, if it's pure and clean and safe. So contact me if you need help with this, because I don't want you doing that if it's a harmful oil. And then incorporating some of these oils into your cleaning routine and ditching the Windex and ditching the Clorox and ditching all of that. And then my third one is, so these essential oils are great. Again, I always think about it in terms of uplifting or calming us down, but also supplements are important. And I know that's a whole other episode, but I always say, like, whenever someone comes to me to get a consult for hormone balance and I'm incorporating oils, this is how I define it with oils. This is the place that I put oils in. Oils help me help you address the symptoms of hormone imbalance. But supplements are the true blue winner of getting to the root cause of hormone imbalance. So if someone comes to me and they're like, I have headaches, or I'm really moody, or I have acne, or I'm bloated, or I have difficulty losing weight, or whatever that case is, that would be more of a root issue, the weight one, is then I'm like, okay, if you want natural, let's come up with a natural plan for you. We can use essential oils to address the symptoms of hormone imbalance. So let's again use the tea tree for your acne, the peppermint for your headache, fennel for your digestive upset, those things that you can address without using over the counter. But when it comes to balancing hormones and getting to the root cause, I think about your gut, I think about inflammation, I think about your liver, I think about your adrenals, and I think about your sex hormones. And that's where supplements come in to really support each of those areas. Like turmeric, there's a turmeric oil, there's also a turmeric powder, so it's so kind of complicated. It's hard to go into it, but that's how I divide it up. For those of you listening, trying to understand, there are essential oils that also can address the root, but it's much easier to start with just addressing the symptom and providing that proper supplementation and nutrition and exercise. That's the best way to start. And then after a while, you'll start to begin to notice, okay, so now my cortisol levels are, for instance, decreasing just like it was for me for sleep. So that's kind of the way I like to create that umbrella understanding of the difference.
That is super helpful. Super helpful, Jamie. Again, this is so awesome. You're so smart about all this stuff. I think this is going to be so helpful for people. And you're right. Like, I kind of thought we would do the nutrient and talk about supplements too, but I think like we are running out of time, and because you know so much about all of this. So we're going to have to do a follow-up episode and talk about the nutrients as well, because it does, like, everything works together, right? Lifestyle. We've got to have nutrition. We've got to have we've got to have our hormones balanced sometimes by physicians, but we've got to have these other tools. Like, it all works together to create that hormonal symphony. And this is just another tool in the toolbox that Jamie has proven to us that really can change someone's life. Mm-hmm. And she also is going to share with us, if you don't know where to start with this, she's open to helping you. And so, Jamie, just tell us, like, how someone would contact you if they want a little help in taking the next step. They just really feel like they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, totally. Well, the cool thing, there's three main things that I want to make sure I offer to you ladies and gentlemen, whoever, honestly. We offer hormone consults. So I train women to be hormone coaches. I just started this program. So it's the year of 2022. We're almost in March here. So you're listening to this a couple of years later. Hopefully we have just this really beautiful group of women that are actively serving. But right now it's a small group. And I'm kind of discovering that process of training and making sure we can create that ripple effect to serve other women. But hormone coaches can meet with you if you're interested. To those who are listening, you can go to my website at fiatliving.org. It is it's my own business. My husband and I, we've had it for 5 years. It is separate from this podcast. So Teresa and I started this podcast as a joint project. She had her work, I had mine. And now we're doing this together. So just know, like, this is my thing. But again, those of you who listen to the podcast also probably would like to learn a little bit more about what I do. So go to my website, fiatliving.org. You can fill out a hormone assessment. And then I will connect you with a hormone coach. It'll either be me or someone else, but who's trained by me to do a free 20-minute meeting. And then if it's something that you want to discover more, then you can set up a 60-minute consult. And it's cool because, again, if you don't want to use the oils or the supplements, that's cool, because they're trained to help you understand your cycle and get you trained and get you connected to the right people. And if you want to know more about these tools, they are equipped to do that. But by no means is it something that you have to do if you're working with someone that I've trained, or that with me directly. So that's the first way. Second one is, if you feel excited when you're listening to this episode and you're like, oh my gosh, this is speaking to my heartstrings, reach out to me, because again, I'm building this program and I'd love your feedback. If you've ever considered to be a hormone coach and you're like, okay, I would love to teach women how to restore their health, how to get rid of toxins in their home naturally. You're like, maybe you have an entrepreneurial spirit, you want to have your business, you want to have a platform, and you want to help others, like, come to me and I can teach you the way. So there will be information in the show notes on how to get in contact with me. And then just cruise through my website. There's plenty of free gifts that you can get, and classes that I offer that are free every month called Hormone Convo. And you can come and just literally ask your questions and I'll answer them, me or a hormone coach. So there's plenty of support, basically, Teresa. Oh. And I can, again, include that all in the write-up.
Yeah, this is awesome. So our podcast is all about empowering women to be the genius of their own hormones. We're not taking the place of medical care. This is an adjunct. This is, please seek out help if you need help from a doctor. These are all just, again, ways that women can really support their own body, their own health, and natural tools to do that. So I love that, Jamie. And this has been a great episode to give people just another tool in their toolbox. And I hope that we can continue to do more episodes that, again, just expound on this in the future.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Teresa. Yeah, it was fun to chat a little bit about this. And I hope to learn even more about herbs and supplements as we move on. So thanks, Teresa.
Yep. Have a good day.